The Chicago Bears 2022 season did not go according to plan as they finished the year with a 3-14 record, allowed the most points in the NFL, and finished with the worst record in the entire league. The trade they made to acquire receiver DJ Moore will significantly benefit this franchise in the long run, and we will address that later in the video, but the 2022 Bears struggles were a long time coming. When former GM Ryan Pace traded up from the 20th pick to the 11th pick in the 2021 draft to get quarterback Justin Fields, he gave up their 2022 first-round pick, and to him, it didn't matter because drafting Fields was a last gasp at saving his job. If Justin worked out in his rookie year and played at a transcending level of football, he would be fine because he got this team the quarterback of the future. However, Justin was just 2-8 as a starter, threw just 7 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, and the Bears would finish the year with a 6-11 record. And with the Bears not making the playoffs for the second time in 3 seasons, it was time for a change, and in came Matt Eberflus and Ryan Poles as the new head coach and GM. And with the loss of a first-round pick, along with having to rebuild a lot of the roster back up, 2022 was inevitably going to be a bad season for this team. But they made a ton of improvements this offseason, and the Chicago Bears have a considerably bright future. But how will they do for this season specifically? Well, we're going to discuss that in today's video. Now let's begin. And we are starting today's video by discussing what must happen for the Bears to have success in 2023, and it starts with guys other than Justin Fields stepping up on offense. If you go back and watch the 2022 Bears offensive highlights, it is Justin Fields making play after play after play. And the Bears had a single player have over 500 yards receiving last year, which was tight end Cole Kmet. Kmet is a solid tight end, and there was a lot of reactions to him getting rewarded with a $50 million contract extension last month, and a lot of it was that this was an insane overpay. And given this team traded Roquan Smith and Robert Quinn last fall, and now that we've had some time to digest this extension, I still think it was a little bit of an overpay for Kmet specifically, and ultimately the production they'll get out of him. But who do the Bears have to pay that they simply won't be able to afford now because of the Kmet contract? And the answer, at the moment at least, is nobody. And Kmet had 7 touchdowns last year too, which is something the Bears would be very happy with if he can keep up this pace for the next several years. Granted, he only played in 12 games, but Darnell Mooney had just 493 receiving yards and just 2 touchdowns. And this was a pretty disappointing year for Mooney, considering he had over 1,000 yards in 2021 and averaged just 41 yards receiving per game in 2022. Equanimeous St. Brown had just 21 catches last year, with just 323 receiving yards, and was the 3rd leading receiver for the Bears, which is, well, awful. And I'm not going to sit here and act like Bears fans should not be excited about the addition of DJ Moore, because he is a very talented player, and I do think he is one of the more underrated receivers in the NFL, but I would be very surprised if DJ comes in and has an A.J. Brown type impact like he did with the Eagles. DJ has the talent, of course, but because the Bears want to run the football more, and given that they naturally do due to who their quarterback is, he's probably not going to be this big number receiver for them, at least not right out of the gate. But the good news is he doesn't have to be. He doesn't have to be a complete do-it-all receiver and to have an insane year in order for the Bears to have success offensively. DJ, Cole Kmet, Darnell Mooney, and Chase Claypool have to do enough to keep the team's passing game respectable. And in 2022, Chicago finished dead last in pretty much every passing category, with the exception of passing touchdowns, as they finished tied for 19th in that statistic. And the reason we bring that up is because when the Bears are in the red zone this year, they have a huge advantage with Justin Fields at quarterback that other teams do not, and it's how good of a dual threat quarterback he is. And for any Bears fans watching this, that's not a Fields as a running back comment as much as it is to say, look, when you're inside the 5-yard line, good luck defending the Bears offense, especially with an improved offensive line and improved weaponry in 2023. Where Chicago has to improve this year, and in a big way, is getting to that point. Because if they can get to the red zone, more often than not, it should be a matter of time until 6 points are on the board. Because as crazy as this is going to sound with the Bears of all teams, they can beat you in almost every way inside the 20-yard line, and it's just a matter of them being able to get there. And for anybody that is hyping them up this year and think they can make a surprise playoff appearance, while I may not think they are that far along in their rebuild, I love what they are building, and I love the long-term vision Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus have for this team. And honestly, an underrated part of the Bears team is their offensive line. Tevin Jenkins is quietly developing into one of the better guards in all of football, and he had a big jump as a player from 21 to 22. Technically, he allowed more pressures in his second year compared to his rookie year, but the percentages differed vastly as he allowed 12 pressures on 304 pass blocking snaps compared to 11 pressures on 117 pass blocking snaps in his rookie season, and both of these statistics are per PFF. And one player that gradually got better towards the end of the season was rookie Braxton Jones. Given Braxton was a 5th round pick last year, and given he started right away, it really shouldn't be a surprise that he struggled big time right out of the gate. And the reason we always bring up why it takes guys longer in the trenches to develop and to get to their peak, at least longer than skill position players, is because they're going up against 28, 29, 30 plus year old grown men at usually 22 or 23 years old that have been lifting weights and playing football at this level a hell of a lot longer than rookies that come into the league fresh out of college, and especially a 5th round rookie from Southern Utah. And Braxton allowed 4 total sacks in his first 4 games, and I don't want to say only, but only 7 total sacks for the entire 2022 season, meaning he allowed just 3 sacks over the remaining 13 games. And even in the final 8 games, he allowed 2 sacks, and you could really start to see Braxton come into his own by season's end. And he actually capped off his rookie season with 31 pass blocking snaps against the Vikings in Week 18, and allowed 0 pressures for the entire game. Granted, a lot of it was against backups, but it's always good to give a guy a morale booster heading into year 2, and especially for a franchise that expects him to play better in his second season. And if the Bears start out on the right foot this year, there's a chance this team can get hot quick, as they open up against Green Bay in Week 1, then go to Tampa in Week 2. And obviously neither game will be easy, and especially the Packers game, because this is a game neither team wants to lose. This is one of the oldest rivalries in all of sports, and the Packers have had the Bears number over the past several years, but this is the first time in a while where the Bears legitimately feel it's their turn to beat Green Bay and to really stick it to them. And if they can beat them in Week 1, I have no doubt they can carry the momentum into Week 2 and come away with a hard-fought win in Tampa. At Kansas City in Week 3, for anyone not just the Bears, is a game I would chalk up as a loss 99% of the time, but after the Chiefs game, they play home against the Broncos and at the Commanders, both of which are winnable. And when you look at the Bears' first 5 games, a 4-1 start isn't impossible. Is it probable? Not exactly, but it's not impossible. And if they start out this hot, the sky is the limit for this team, because for the first time in a while, the whole city will truly be bought in, and they'll feed off the energy and be ready to take down the Vikings in Week 6. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, there is a major part of the Bears that flat out has to be better than what they were in 2022, and that's the defense. The Bears' defense allowed 350 yards or more in 10 games last year, and they were 0-10 in those games. Granted, they only won 3 games all season, so that shouldn't be a huge surprise, but they were not good in the trenches last year, and teams continuously ran the ball down their throats. They gave up 200 yards rushing as a team 5 times last year, and the average margin of defeats in those games was 19.6 points. So for a lot of the Bears' opponents last year, it was pounce on them early and don't let up. And because we know they're not good in the trenches, we're just going to run the football until they prove they can stop it. And the Bills game against them in Week 16 was a good example of that. Buffalo ran the ball 31 times for 254 yards and 3 touchdowns, while Josh Allen threw for 172 yards and also had 2 interceptions in this game. The Bills would go on to win by over 3 touchdowns, and granted it was 7 degrees with 17-mile-an-hour winds, I don't think the Bills' game plan would have changed all that much late in the season. There was no reason to have Josh go out there and throw 45 passes against a team they knew they were significantly better than, especially in a year where Josh battled injuries seemingly all year long. So while the weather was awful to throw the football, this game for Buffalo was very much a game where they said, look, let's take care of business and try and get out of here without getting anyone hurt in the process. And Chicago addressed that this offseason, the run defense that is, by bringing in several guys in the front seven to combat this issue. They brought in linebacker Tremaine Edmunds from Buffalo, DeMarcus Walker from the Titans, TJ Edwards from the Eagles, and recently signed veteran pass rusher Yannick Ngakoue. If Bears fans are excited about the Yannick signing, I understand, and I would be too, as he will bring help to a team that needed pass rushing in the worst way. However, he is an awful run defender and misses tackles at an extremely high rate, and if you think he will contribute in a big way here, he may have a play here or there, but he missed 22.7% of his tackle attempts in each of the last 2 years, and even missed at a 27.3% rate in 2020, which is abysmal. But the Bears also invested in the defensive line with 2 of their first 4 draft picks in Gervon Dexter from Florida and Zach Pickens from South Carolina. I know some Bears fans were upset about not taking Jalen Carter because of how talented of a player he is, but I actually sided with Ryan Poles in this situation because of where they are in the rebuild. I would have rather taken Darnell Wright for the Bears and a player that will probably start for this team for the next few years than take a gamble on Carter. Philly is a lot further along, so it made sense for them, but the Bears allowed 31 rushing touchdowns in 2022, which was dead last in the NFL, and through all of the offseason acquisitions, they will be a lot better in 2023, and the Bears' time of possession should be much more in their favor this year too. One big thing with the Bears and what people have to remember with them is they are a rebuilding team, and sometimes with rebuilding teams, people want to project the absolute best for them, and the reality is they may not be quite to that level yet. And I realize I even said earlier in the video that a 4-1 start for this team isn't unreasonable, and it's not. But the reality is they are a very young team, and they will still have to go through their fair share of growing pains. And another thing to remember is that all NFL rebuilds and retoolings are not a straight line of success or failure. If Chicago makes the playoffs this year, that would be a huge success in itself because of where they are entering the season. They have a lot of tools and a lot of quality players, and it's a matter of these guys stepping up. Justin Fields threw for 2,200 yards and 17 touchdowns last year, along with 1,100 yards rushing and 8 rushing touchdowns. And there are 3 quarterbacks in NFL history to rush for 1,000 yards in a season, and they are Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson, and Michael Vick. Fields is an electric player with the football in his hands, and projecting what him or anyone else on the offense is going to do this year in the stat sheet column is tough, because the question is, how much will Justin run the football, and how much will they throw the football? I understand Bears fans want to get back to being relevant and get back to having an actual shot of winning the NFC North, and there's guys across the league right now where I question what their long-term plan is from a roster building standpoint, but GM Ryan Poles is not one of those guys. I believe in him and what he has envisioned for this team and for their future. And having said that, 2023 is going to be another stepping stone in what was a very long rebuild to begin with. The team MVP, breakout players, ceiling, and floor are on the screen, and I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, as only about 26% of people watching are subscribed, and until the next team preview, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.